Okay, so we're going to begin this new tiny house project from the very beginning. And so I've got this PDF file open which has the boundary measurements, and then it's also got the main set out measurements for the building footprint as well. I'm going to begin with the boundary, and that'll allow me to then at the same time create the site itself, or the ground surface. So I'm going to begin my new file, as always using the architectural template. You can use the shortcut there under projects, or if you've got something open already, you can always go to the file menu and then choose new project, and then just make sure from the drop down you choose architectural template again. And it's good at first always just to double check that you're actually getting the right template with that shortcut. And you can tell by seeing over here it says ground floor. That's a good pointer to tell us that it's most likely the Australian template. And also these symbols here have the round elevation symbols, not the square ones. If you see the square ones, it's a real giveaway that it's probably the American template, even if it's metric. So watch out for those two things. And so I've got the 4 elevation views that you've just seen, and then also the section line to tell me basically where the centre of this view is. So we're always looking for that when we first start drawing. We want to draw in the middle of those 4 views and also that section line. And so I'm going to draw some reference planes now, starting with one that crosses over that section line, it's the vertical plane. And then I'm going to draw another one that's parallel to that, also crossing over the section line, and trying to keep it all roughly centred inside those 4 elevations. Now, I didn't worry too much about the dimensions, so I'm going to come back and adjust that. So I'm going to look at this PDF now, and you can see that the overall dimension for the boundary there is 2510. So while I'm making these reference planes as I go, I can always click on those dimensions to change them. But if you've gone to click and make a new one, you'll lose that. So just make sure you remember that you can always escape twice and come back and select any of those, and then that gives you the chance to adjust the dimension again. And now I've forgotten what it was. 2510 here, so 20510. Okay, so we've got the distance between those 2 planes, and now I'll draw another pair of reference planes that cross over those 2. So one above and one below the section line, of course parallel to each other, and then the dimension there between those 2 boundaries is 3750. So again, we can just adjust that. Oops. Okay, so you can see then that it's moved that reference plane below my section line. So to make it easier for myself later when I start to make the building, I want the section line to go through the building. So again, to make it easier on myself, I'm going to select all of those reference planes, and remember, if you select left to right, it selects everything inside the window. When you select right to left, it selects all of those things inside the window as well, but also anything that it's touching. So the dashed line you can see there is touching that section, and it would select it, and I don't want that. I only want to select the reference plane, so again, left to right makes that easy. And I can then just use the up arrow on the keyboard to nudge that up so that it's centred again over that section line, roughly. No, just by eye, yeah, as long as it's centred, yeah, by eye, it's fine, yeah. And then I'll just shorten these, so again, it's just a bit neater, but again, that's optional. There we are. So I've got the size of the property now established, but those are reference planes which are often going to be hidden in different views and not going to show a proper boundary line. So there is a tool to show a boundary line, just like what you would see on a survey, and that's on the Massive and Site tab. You'll see the property line tool. So if you click there, it'll bring up 2 options. The first one is for surveys, or for surveyors mostly, or people who have those measurements that the surveyor can give you. And those are distances and bearings. Bearings are just angles. So the surveyors need to give you those measurements. We don't have them, so instead we're going to use the other option, which was create by sketching. So clicking there, it's fairly simple. You can then just click onto the intersections between those reference planes to draw a rectangle. You just use the rectangle tool if you want to, and finish it, and that will give you a boundary line that will show up with the right line type for the boundary, which is this dashed line with the uneven dashes. So that's a great automatic tool. And then, okay, so all we need to do now is make a physical ground surface. And so, again, I might just go back to that reference image so you can see the heights. And so we're going to have the ground as 0. Later you'll see when you start to work from surveys, you'll work with an Australian height datum, or level, from sea level pretty much, which is going to be higher than that. But it's fine to reduce it, in other words, to make it a reduced level where we're going to say this is our 0, and everything's going to be measured from there. So just remember that, and then if your floor level is flush with the ground, it'll be 0 as well, but you might raise it slightly to have a step up from the ground, and then it might be 100 or 150, something like that. So now that we know all of that, I can then just go, again, still on the Massing and Site tab, to the Topo Surface tool. And notice it's come up with this message telling me topographic elements are not visible in this view. And that's because I'm in a floor plan, a ground floor plan in this case. But I'm going to go to the other floor plan that's below that, the site plan, and open that, and it will be visible in this view. So I can close that close the warning, it's fine, and then to make the surface, I've got to go back to this place point tool. So just make sure you realise there that with place point, you can put in any levels you like. It's up here, you've got that option to set the elevation. But in this case it's easy, we're just going to start with it at 0. So I'm going to leave that height there at 0, and then just click 4 points. It's almost like joining the dots when you do these. Once you do 3 or more, you can connect those points to make a surface. So I'll do a 4th point. I'm not worrying about making it an accurate rectangle. This whole surface is going to be cut back using some other tools later, so it's fine if it's not a nice, neat rectangle. So that's it. My surface is done. So I'll finish it. And you'll see now if we go to a 3D view, I'm just going to click on the little house icon at the top to give me that. And we've got a surface that is, well, it's a bit confusing the way these levels flip around sometimes, but it is in line with the ground floor level. Now, it's not linked to it, so if I decide later that I do want my ground floor to be at a different height, say at 150, it'll move up, but the ground stays where it is. So to show you in the section view, you can see there, it does some other nice things. It cuts it properly and gives you a nice heavy line for the ground surface, which is exactly what you want. And then it hatches the ground surface under that ground line automatically. And so that's one of the main reasons that you make your ground surface, so that you get a nice ground hatch below your sections and the other views like that. In the 3D view, it's not coming up as a cut surface yet because I haven't cut it in that view. So if you orbit, you'll see it looks like it's just a flat plane. But I'll show you can actually make it come up with the cut pattern in the 3D views. So I'm going to duplicate my my 3D view, just so I've got a copy of it, and then I'm going to turn on this great option, which I think I've shown you briefly, but I'm not sure. In properties here, you've got this option section box. We're going to use that a lot more as we go through. So that basically gives you a 3D section tool. This is optional at this point, but you'll definitely want to do this later. You can use that then to cut back any 3D object. And you can see now, once I'm cutting it, I can see that ground surface really clearly as a cut object in the 3D view. And that's a really nice thing, especially for interiors. You can use that to cut back into your building and show all of those things sitting nicely on a nice cut ground as well. So that's it. So I'll give you some time to maybe set that up. So you've got the two things. You've got the setup for the boundary using the reference planes, then the boundary line itself using the property line tool, all on the massing and site tab, and then the second thing is the ground surface, which should be bigger, quite a bit bigger than the site. You'll need to decide on how much bigger. And then just make sure you remember that you won't see it in the ground floor plan, but you will see it in the site floor plan. I'll give you some time to try that, and then we can start making the building.